Hi, it's Ashleigh from Sweet Dreams Bake Shop, and today I'm going to be sharing with you 5 tips on how to create the perfect Christmas cookie box for Vlogmas Day 13. So today we're going to start out opening our advent calendar, and it's an adorable little guitar charm for Phoebe. So tip number 1 before you even start putting your box together is know your cookie basics. So cookie recipes generally follow the same type of pattern, but some cookies do things a little bit differently. For example, this cookie recipe is asking for browned butter. It sounds simple enough, but it does actually need a lot of direction in order to brown your butter properly. So basically, you just take your butter, you melt it all the way down, and see how it's getting bubbly like this? A lot of people get nervous around this part. Try not to stop letting it brown at this point because actually no browning is going on. As you can see here, it kind of starts foaming up after a while, but we're still not done browning it yet. You want a nice amberish color to come through. That's how you know that the butter is browned, and it's going to happen kind of all of a sudden. Right now I can see that color starting to develop, and it's just going to get deeper and deeper the more you leave it on the stove. That's exactly what you want. Once it really is filling up the sides of the pot completely with all of that color, you know it's ready. After that, you're going to take your brown butter and you're going to pour it into a bowl, and make sure that it is a heat-safe bowl because you don't want your bowls cracking from that heat. Don't add any ice cubes into it no matter what the recipe says. Just leave it. And then you want to leave it in the fridge until it gets to that texture. Then it's ready to use. You're also going to come across recipes that ask you to stuff something in the center, and this is where a lot of people go wrong, especially with kind of those jam thumbprint cookies or anything else that requires you to put something inside of a cookie and bake properly. Now, the number one thing that people get wrong is putting too much stuffing inside. You do want to make sure that the flavor is there, but you also want to make sure that you just put a very, very tiny amount. If you've ever made something like soup dumplings or wonton, it's kind of the same principle where you don't want to overstuff them because if you do, everything is going to leak out. So whenever I have a cookie that I need to stuff, I really make sure that I use my pointer finger like that bent and I push through. And the reason that I do that as opposed to putting my thumb in there is because I don't want my nail to collect all of that dough underneath. But if you don't have nails, then you probably are okay using your thumb, or you can always just use a tool as well. Now notice here, I put a very small amount of jam in there, but you're still going to taste it. Jam is very, very sweet, so you are going to get that flavor in there. When you close this little portion up, you want to add a little bit more dough on it. See there, I did not close that properly. I overfilled and then it was coming out everywhere. But here I add a little dough patch and then I get everything nice and formed around it. And when I baked these, they came out perfectly fine, no exploding jam, and all of the seams were completely closed. One of the other cookie basics that they're probably going to ask you is to take a piece of dough and roll it in sugar or roll it in some sort of sugar cinnamon mixture and then put it in to bake. So the rule of thumb for this is actually pretty simple. You just want to make sure that you sufficiently chill your dough before you actually roll it, and then roll it in your sugar or whatever it is that the recipe is asking you to roll it in. If you don't chill it beforehand, then you're going to end up with a blob, and when it bakes, it's just going to bake way too thin and it's not going to turn out right. If you guys have seen my video where I talk about all of the rules that I always follow and some of the rules that I tend to break, I kind of briefly talk about chilling your dough, when it's necessary and when it isn't. Moving along to tip number 2, you want to make sure that you're choosing a good selection of cookies. And what is a good selection? Well, you can do something like theme your box, for example, but I feel like with Christmas, it's really important to kind of hit all of the different flavor profiles and all of the different texture profiles as well. So this year in my cookie box, I tried to include at least one item that was nice and chewy, one item that had some sort of ginger or molasses taste, one item that also has a nice filling like a jam or a fruity filling, one item like a whoopie pie or a filled cookie. So either a whoopie pie or a macaron I think would do really well here. I also have at least one type of shortbread, which is more of a cookie that has more of a snap to it. It's not a very chewy cookie. And I am also going to be including something that is decorated. You at least want to put in one really nice decorated cookie, in my opinion, if that's something that your bakery offers. If you're just doing this for friends and family and you want to create a delicious box, I mean, you can let your imagination run wild with this. But I will say that even if you're just doing this super casually as a hobby baker, including something with different flavor and texture profiles is going to make your box a super, super nice gift. Tip number 3 is that you want to consider the size of each dessert, whatever it is that you're making. Now, whenever I make cookie boxes, I tend to err on the side of making things a lot smaller because most people are going to want to share their cookie boxes with somebody else, or if they are just eating it by themselves, they don't want to necessarily eat a whole large cookie at once, because typically there are going to be a lot of other treats and things around the holiday season. So I say smaller bites that are really, really delicious and they're accessible then. People don't like to eat really, really large cookies. Every time I serve cookies at parties, if I make them too big, people don't want to eat them because it's too much of an investment for their stomach. So I say smaller pieces. Tip number 4 might be a bit of an obvious one, but you do want to choose cookies that are going to keep well for a long duration of time, at least up to 2 weeks or so in room temperature or in the fridge. Now, most cookies, although on recipes they say only keep it for about 3 to 4 days, they'll probably be fine for a week or 2 even. They just won't be as good. So you can always put on instructions that say how to store your cookies, but they should be able to be kept out for a little while before going bad. So I really like to use recipes that don't require any cream, obviously, or any cream fillings. So for tip number 5, you want to consider your storage space. So whether you're making these as a home baker or you're making this just for friends and family as gifts, you do need to plan out how you're going to store all of these cookies. Because if you're going to be making a lot of cookies, then you are going to need freezer space or fridge space. And if you don't have a lot of that, then you're going to have to strategically plan when you're actually going to bake these things and how you're going to distribute them and how quickly you're going to distribute them after you've baked them. So it's super important that you consider what type of space you have. If you have a lot of space, then you can even start preparing a month in advance. But if you don't have a lot of space, then chances are everything is going to kind of get crammed into 3 or 4 days. And even though something like packaging seems like it wouldn't take that long, it does end up taking a long time. So you do want to make sure that you also leave a full day just for packaging. Now in today's video, I don't want this to go on for too long, so I'm actually going to talk about packaging your cookie boxes in tomorrow's video. So if you want to come back for that, make sure you come and check it out. I'm going to be talking about how much you should be charging for your packaging and your cookie boxes. And if you're just doing this for fun, I'm also going to show you how to ship to family and friends. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you can be part of the Sweetie fam. Right now, I'm uploading daily, so make sure you hit that notification bell so you know when I upload. Also, be sure to comment, request, or ask a question. I love hearing from you guys. Bye!